Okay, so welcome to the second lesson of the C++ programming language section. Today we are coming to talk about types and declarations of data being used to compose the C++ language. Yes. So at the end of this lesson, I will introduce you to C++ types. Also, learn fundamental types such as booleans, character types, integer, floating point, the void, and then sizes. So these are all the fundamental types in which the data is being used to compose the C++ can exist. You will also be introduced to declarations. Learn structures of declarations, declaring multiple names, scope, and then initialization. What are data types? So data types refers to the various forms of data in which the language can exist within. It is basically talking about the various ways or form in which a data can be represented in the C++ language. So examples include the integer, the float, and then boolean. Let's look at some categories of the data types. We have the integral types, that is the integer, the character, and then the boolean. We have the integral and floating point types, or which are also called the arithmetic types. We have the user defined types, which is the enumeration and classes. Then we have the fundamental types, pointers and references, which are also called the built-in types. Let's look at data sets. So the sets specify the range of values a data type is composed of. Yes, it specifies the range of what values or data a data type is composed of, and each type has its data set. So each member has its own set or its own range. So let's look at some data sets. We have the integer, which are the whole numbers. We have the floating point, that's the decimal numbers with a single precision. Take note. We have the floating point, that's the double, which is the decimal numbers with double precision. Yes. We have the character, which is the letters, numbers, and symbols. We have the boolean, that's the true or false. We have string, that's the combination of characters. To talk more of the letters, numbers, and symbols, when they are combined, they are called a string, which is a set or a data set. Yes. Let's look at data sizes. So the data sizes specify the amount of memory a data is allocated in a data type. Let me take it once again. The data sizes specify the amount of memory a data is allocated in a data type. Each data type has its data size. Using size of keyword determines size of what's fundamental data types. So integers, or an integer uses 4 bytes. The floating points, that's the decimal numbers with a single precision, use 4 bytes, while the double, which is the decimal numbers with double precision, it uses 8 bytes. The character uses 1 byte, boolean also uses 1 byte, and then the string uses 32 bytes. which is the combination of both letters, numbers, and then the symbols. Since it's a combination, it uses what a bigger space, that's the 32 bytes. So let's look at some integer types. Negative 67280 and then positive 78. So positive integers do not have to have a plus sign in front of them. Yes, like how the 78 here is written, we don't need to attach a plus sign to it. Yes, but it's only when negative that we have to attach the minus sign or the negative sign to it. No comments are used within an integer. Yes, comments are used for separating items in a list. Yes. Let's look at some integer types being used in the C++ program. So we have our include IOString using namespace std, int main, int x is equal to 25, and then return 0. So it could be seen clearly that since the 25 is a positive integer or is a positive number, we didn't attach the plus sign to it. But if it was to be negative, we would have added the negative sign or the minus sign to it. So it means the 25 here has been declared to the x. Yes. So let's look at some floating point types. So it represents floating point numbers. It has three types, that's the float and the double. And then the float is what the first float here is the decimal numbers with only one precision, and then the double here is also the what decimal numbers with what double precision. Yes, it can be said. And then we have the long double is extended precision. Let's quickly look at some float types. Yes, so we have our main or the source code, and then we have the float amount equals 12.72. Yes, like how I said, the float is only for decimal numbers. We can't use the float for a positive integer, like the we can't bring the float amount and then say float amount equals 25. No, it is only for decimal numbers that we use the float. So let's look at the double types, that's the decimal numbers with the double precision. So we also have our main source code, and then double salary equals 125.213134 blah blah blah. So the difference between these double types and then the float type is that the float type is what just a decimal number with only a single precision, and then the double salary is what, or the double type is the one with the double decimal precision. Yes, so let's also look at some Boolean types, where a Boolean is used to express results of logical operations. It is also known as what? Bool. It has two values, that's the true or false. It is not just an English just being true or it's false. No, true represents 1 or yes, and then false represents 0 or no. So like example, it has been used here. Bool then we have it's raining equals true. That's it. And then the true here stands for either one or yes. And then let's look at the character types. The smallest integral data type. Yes, so they are the smallest. Each character is enclosed in a single quote. Some of the values belonging to the character data type are capital A in quotation, small a in quotes, 0 in quotes, star in quotes, and then the rest. A blank space is a character and is written with a single quote, and then another quote what's closing it with a space left between the single quotes. And then we have character types. Let's look at some character types. So we also have our main source code, and then the character has been shortened to what? CHAR, gender equals, then we have a single quote first, M, and then another single quote to what? Enclose it. And then let's look at some string types. That's basically the combination of the numbers, letters, and what? Symbols. So it is a programmer defined type supplied in the standard library. Yes, it is said to be library because it contains different types. That's the character, to talk more of the letters, numbers, and then the symbols. Sequence of 0 or more characters enclosed in double quotation marks. We have the null, a string with no characters. So the null is what? A string with no characters. Each character has relative position in a string. Let's look at some string types. So it has been used in the example here that string name equals AMA. And then this one has been used in what? A double quotation. The AMA is being enclosed by a what? Double quotation. Let's quickly look at the void. And then the void signifies absence of what? Information. That's when no information is being what? Assigned or assigned to a particular data type. Syntactically, a fundamental data type. Yes, it is a fundamental data type here. Can be used only as part of more complicated type, mostly used in what? Functions. So let's look at this example. We have our main source code, void x, void end sign, and then r, void f, open brackets, and then bracket close, and then void asterisk pv, and then return 0. So let's look at signed and what? Unsigned. Both are type what? Modifiers. Signed has both positive and negative values. So the signed has what? Both positive and what? Negative values. Unsigned only represents non-negative values. That's 0 and positive values. Yes, so know the difference that the signed what? Has both positive and negative values. Meanwhile, the unsigned represent non-negative values. That's 0 and what? Positive values only. Let's look at some sign-on types. So signed int x equals, then the value, since it's what? what both positive and negative values it can what represent. So sign int x equals 4294 blah blah blah. And then let's look at the unsigned on what types. Yes, we also have our main source code, and then unsigned int x equals 42. Yes, it is also positive value because it is basically known for what representing positive values only. The sign also represents positive values and then negative values, but when using the unsigned can be used for what negative values. Take note. Let's look at some other fundamental types. We have the short, that's the 2 byte, the long, that's the 4 byte, the long, that's the 8 byte. So in order not to confuse yourself, the long is 4, the long is what 8. So the long being it twice, that's 4 times 2 is equal to 8. So when you see the long here, to tell you that it was 8 bytes. Let's look at some composite types. We have the pointers, we have the arrays, and then we have the what reference types. Right. So let's look at some user-defined types. So they are the what data structures and what classes. They are enumeration, that is representing specific sets of what values. Declaring multiple names, it is used to what declare several names in a single declaration. So this declaration makes it easy for you to declare several names within that single declaration. Yes, the declaration uses comma for separation, mostly done for similar data types. So since you are going to declare it for what multiple names, it is very important for you to what use the comma between them for what separation. Let's look at some example of what multiple names being declared. So we have our main source code, stroke int x, stroke int y, int x comma y. You see, so the one with the red indication here, yes, these ones they are the single ones, and then the one with the blue here is what the combined one, which has been what separated by the comma there. Yes, so let's look at scope. Over here we are going to look about or talk about local scope, global scope, class scope, namespace scope, and then a statement scope. So the scope here has been used in an example, and then let's look at the word declaration. An identifier or name must be declared before being used in C++ program. And then the reason for you to declare is that it informs the compiler what kind of entity the identifier refers to. So here's an example: chr, that's the ch, the string, that's the int count is equal to 1, then the const double pi is equal to blah blah blah. Let's look at how some variables have been declared, or some names have been declared. So we have the char ch, the string, and then the s. Let's look at what initialization. So initialization determines the initial value of an object. It can be used to modify value of, maybe you've decided to what initialize 2 to the variable a. So it is telling the computer that the initial value for the what letter a, or the variable a, is what 2. So an initializer can use one of 4 syntactic styles. Let's look at these 4 syntactic styles then. We have the X, A1, and then curly braces, V, curly braces closed up as well. And then it can be also done in a way as X, small a2 equals, then you put V in the 2 curly braces, and then X, a3 equals V. And then the 4th style is what X, a4 open brackets, V bracket closed. Let's look at how some variables are being or some numbers are being declared or initialized to some variables. So int h equals 25, chr, that's the character, gender equals m. Yes, so it means that the int h here means that the age here, or let me say the 25 here, has been initialized to the age here for the computer to know that the initial age is what 25. So this brings us to the end of today's lesson. Thank you.